Hi, everyone. Pardon the chainsaw in the background. Think of it as music. This week, it was excellent choice that Stephen and Michelle chose um, postpartum depression and attachment uh, for literature review and discussion because they're really closely intertwined. And so I'll try to um, weave the connections into my synthesis here. Um, Ryan, you mentioned what a question that about uh, medication and postpartum depression, and it turns out that the depression medications in the class of SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, do not have a toxic effect on breast milk, so that is an option for mothers. Um, and um, the the physician, as some of you mentioned, is critical as the first person, um, in addition to a breastfeeding consultant, if there is one. The physician, the obstetrician, is the person who will know first whether there's an issue with postpartum depression. And so, as you mentioned, having a very close relationship with a physician is critical. It's also so important to educate not only the new parents but their families um, about issues related to postpartum depression because, as someone mentioned, sometimes uh, the families have no idea what's going on, and their reactions might be um, to blame the mother or to just be confused when they could actually offer very important support. Ryan, you made a good point with regard to issues that might keep mothers from seeking treatment about for postpartum depression. Shame and fear of judgment can be very real for people experiencing any kind of psychological distress, but particularly for mothers who are new mothers who are feeling depressed because of the contradiction between social expectations for new mothers and what depressed new mothers are actually experiencing. Um, the shame and fear of judgment are thought of as meta symptoms that can interfere with getting help. Meta symptoms are any symptoms that are related to the primary symptoms. And as a worker, you really need to work through the meta issues sometimes before you can even begin to address the primary issues. I remember when my daughter was first born, I had had no role models for parenting at all, and I asked the obstetrician, what should I do? And he said, enjoy her. And I thought that was just about the best information anybody could have given me. With regard to attachment, Michelle, you have provided a great literature review and led a wonderful forum discussion. That was a very poignant story about your aunt not bonding with her baby, and it helps us see again how important education for new parents and their families is. Um, it was an interesting um, idea also that violence can create as much harm to an infant's brain as being born addicted, and vice versa. Um, and your point also as a foster parent that kids with attachment problems can be turned around by attentive and knowledgeable foster parents like you also, obviously are. That was very heartening and encouraging, I'm sure, for everyone to hear. Several people made the point that there's really a delicate balance between um, neglecting a child and then the child experiencing an insecure attachment, or creating an insecure attachment by being overly present and not allowing the child to have any independence, as described by your example of the two middle-aged folks who are living with their parents still. Kristen, you made a point about having your friends, your son's 15-year-old friend there for 6 months and wishing that you could have had him for longer. But actually, there's lots of research that bears out the idea that one positive experience or relationship can weigh very heavily as a protective factors, and actually counteract the destructive effect of multiple risk factors. So just don't assume how important you might have been to that boy. I posted for you several of the links that you mentioned. So there are links there on temperament, on protective factors related to attachment with young infants, and also a link to the very sad story of Romanian orphanages as a shocking example of the consequences of infants having no attachment figures at all. So wonderful discussions this week, and I'm looking, or last week, and I'm looking forward to this week.